took place on November 22nd, 2001 with Darrell and Rogene Harlow. Darrell, when and where were you born?
I was born April 2nd, 1925 in rural Martinsville, Illinois.
Who were your parents and siblings?
Walter and Martha Harlow. I had three brothers, Lloyd Harlow, Floyd Harlow, Doyle Harlow, and two sisters, Zola Wolf and Marie Hills.
Rogene, when and where were you born, and who were your parents and siblings?
October 23rd, and my parents were Charles and Lanny Morgan.
Where were you born?
In Clark County, Marshall, Illinois.
And who was your sibling?
One sister, Jeanette Lycan.
What was your neighborhood like at that time?
It was, per se, you're just living in the country and you had neighbors miles, 2 miles from you. But it's just considered a rural area, south and east of Martinsville.
And I lived north of Martinsville at Marshall. And I lived in a rural area and actually was surrounded pretty much by my grandfather and grandmother and uncles in that area.
Has that neighborhood changed?
Oh yes.
How?
Well, it has good roads now. Some of the roads have been closed, and a lot of the buildings have been torn down, turned over into farmland.
What about your neighbors?
Well, I didn't have any very close neighbors, only an uncle and an aunt. And one family, Bushmeyers, a German family that moved here many, many years ago.
How about you, Darrell?
We had good neighbors, wonderful neighbors, and all age groups living in our area. All the Ellingtons and the Scotts, Birchfields, and there was a lot of people in the same area we were that had sons and daughters about the same age as I was.
What kind of chores were you asked or required to do?
Gather the eggs, clean out the hen house, split wood, carry in wood every night during the winter, of course. Of course, Mother cooked with her cook stove was burned wood, so we had to have wood year round. And we had just enough livestock to butcher for our own use, to take care of, feed every day.
What foods did your family enjoy?
Well, I think we always had a large garden. My dad would, what did he say, bury it, potatoes and a lot of vegetables, and then we'd open it up during the winter, and it tasted like fresh vegetables when you get it out of the mounds where you bury it.
What about you, Rogene? What kind of chores were you asked or required to do?
Gather the eggs and feed the chickens, milk the cows, which I detested, and feed the pigs.
How were your meals prepared?
Mother had a big old-fashioned range. They were all prepared on a stove that burned wood.
What were the favorite foods that your family enjoyed?
Well, we had butchered pork, we butchered pigs, and we had ham and all kinds of pork, and also butchered cows. Killed
Did you grow your own vegetables?
Yes,
Did you have chickens?
yes, and eggs.
Where did you go to school?
Are you talking to me? I went to Brossman School, which was about 2 miles. Had to walk about 2 miles to get to grade school.
Do you have any certain memories of your education you would like to share?
Well, they were mostly good memories. We didn't know all the sadness that seems to be known now. You know, it was, they really were all good memories. We did simple things, playing games and riding horses and this kind of thing for entertainment.
What kind of games?
Oh, just, you know, Andy over.
Hide and seek.
Hide and seek and simple little games.
How about you, Darrell? Where did you go to school?
My grade school years, I went to Possum Ridge for 2 years, and my sister Zola was my teacher, which I rode to school in her horse and buggy with her. And then the other 6 years, I went to number 1 school, which is about a mile and a half from home.
Who was your teacher then?
Well, I had quite a few different teachers and all good teachers. I think my favorite teacher was Mary Spittler or Mary Mackey, and my sister Zola Wolf was my 2 favorite teachers.
What about you, Rogene? Any favorite teachers?
I would say Ruth Veach was one of my favorite teachers, and Brenton Montgomery was an excellent teacher.
What was dating like?
Boy.
What did you do on a date?
Oh dear. Well, it was a great treat to get to go to the movies once a week on Saturday night, if we were lucky, and the roads weren't muddy.
How'd you get there?
In Darrell's car. Or one of his friends that he had bring him.
What did it cost to get in a movie?
Well, I can remember when we were in high school, we went to a movie for $1.
Each? $1 each?
Uh-huh.
Did they have popcorn and snacks?
Oh,
and
yes.
things?
Nickel.
Uh-huh.
A nickel?
Mm-hmm. We went to the Mars Theater in Martinsville. It was really an up-to-date movie house, wasn't it?
If you didn't go to a movie, what was another place you might have gone on a date?
We didn't really do much else, did we?
Picnic or something like that with friends.
What were your favorite pastimes and leisure activities?
Well,
When you were growing up?
we always had a lot of church activities we both had to go to. I wasn't allowed to go to a movie on Saturday night if I hadn't gone to prayer meeting on Wednesday night and church and Sunday school on Sunday. I wasn't allowed to go to a movie.
What about you, Darrell? What was your favorite pastime?
Well, I think playing with the boys in the neighborhood, that most of us had riding horses, and we'd go to a lot of horseback rides. Played ball out in the field. Loved to hunt, rabbit hunt, squirrel hunt.
When and where were you married?
St. Charles, Missouri.
When?
1942.
August 29th.
What, what job did you have at that time, Darrell?
I was working at the E-Row Foundry in Martinsville, Illinois.
What kind of a job was that?
It was what they call a drag-out crew. It was a night shift. Very hot, very dirty.
Where did you work, Rogene?
I stayed with an elderly couple here in Marshall, South 5th Street.
What were their names?
Mr. and Mrs. Will Craig.
And you took care of them?
I did their housework and fixed their food. This was during, when school was out, during summer, to make money.
What historical event stands out in your mind?
At what age?
Right around this time.
Oh, Pearl Harbor. Attacked on Pearl Harbor, I guess, would be number one.
We were juniors in high school when they announced it over our loudspeakers that we had been attacked, and I couldn't understand why the teachers were getting all upset. You know, I did not know that that would affect us in 2 years.
And how did that affect you?
Well, Darrell had to go into the Navy almost the year that he graduated from high school.
Same year.
And where did you go after you joined the Navy?
I went to Farragut, Idaho for my boot training. From there to Toledo, Ohio for schooling, 16 weeks of what they call storekeeper school. From there to back to the Hawaiian Islands, Pearl Harbor.
And where were you during this time, Rogene?
I worked at a defense plant in Chicago, Douglas Aircraft. Worked on big C-54 cargo planes.
So you were a Rosie the Riveter?
Right? Did riveting.
How long were you there?
The war, I stayed there until the war ended,
Over 2 years, wasn't it?
almost 3.
So when Darrell came home, what happened then?
They immediately closed down the Douglas Aircraft. Immediately quit making. See, they were making planes, so they had no reason to go ahead and make. They didn't need those planes when the war was over. So when they closed it the day the war ended, and I came home the next day.
Then what was the turn of events then? What happened between you and Darrell?
Well, jobs were very hard to find, so my father was a truck gardener, so the first, I got home in March, and the first summer, he and I put out 10 acres of truck patch with 1 horse and hose.
We made our
And sold it took it to Terre Haute to the growers market and sold it.
made our first $1,000 that summer.
Yeah.
And that was enough for an inventory for a small grocery store. That fall, we started Harlow Market, which eventually turned into Marshall IGA.
When you owned Harlow Market, where were you living?
In a real small apartment behind
In the same
the
building.
grocery.
And what happened after you purchased the market? And
Well, we had our first daughter in February, the year later. And then, let's see,
Well, we built a house adjacent to Harlow Market in 1950. And
when our second daughter was coming.
moved there.
And when and how did you hear about the Dog and Suds?
I was traveling. I had a job with Mickelberry Meat Company, and I was a route supervisor, and I was traveling quite a bit, and I saw one being built in Robinson, Illinois. Stopped and got information on it and found that they were headquartered in Champaign, Illinois. So the next time I was in that area, I stopped in and got some information on it, and liked the idea. And we ordered the building and bought a franchise.
How many years did you own the Dog and Sets?
27.
It was a Dog and Sets for 27 years?
Yes.
And you still had Harlow Market at this time,
Mm-hmm.
adjacent to your house on South 6th Street?
Yes.
What year did you buy the Marshall IGA?
1973. We signed a contract to buy the IGA the day that John Kennedy was assassinated. That's another historical event in our lives.
So what happened to the Harlow Market building?
And we converted it into speed wash laundry, coin laundry.
After the Dog and Sets was closed, what became of that location?
Well, they
Tore the original building down and built a brand new building and put a Kentucky Fried Chicken in, which was a sad mistake, but we did it.
sure was.
What is in that building at this time?
We sold it to, it's now known as the Human Resource Center. It was vacant for 3 years.
Awful.
When you look back on your life, what would you say, what modern conveniences would you say have affected your life the most?
Well, the first year we were married, we lived in a rural house that we had kerosene lamps. And they did put in electric, you know, before that first year was up. But I think that impressed me about as much as anything, because I had lived in Chicago before and was used to electricity. And
Indoor plumbing, electricity.
yeah. I loved it.
I can see why. What are some of your memories of Marshall, Illinois? Things that have happened, things that have changed? Any comments about what it's been like to live here?
Well, it's been wonderful. I think since I was real small, my parents always came to Marshall once a week, and during band concert time they came twice a week, but otherwise we came on Saturday evening and got our groceries for the whole week, and we got to spend the whole evening running around the courthouse square doing simple things, going to an ice cream parlor and that kind of thing.
Where was that ice cream parlor? What was the name of that?
Ready Makers, right across the street from the courthouse. And we had a Marshall City drugstore that had,
The Candy Kitchen,
yeah, Candy Kitchen was there.
and E&L Confectionery. Had a lot of neat little places like that.
That are all gone
That's
now.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I think that's why our Dog and Sets was so popular, you know, because we had ice cream, root beer, and all the things that they didn't have downtown.
Can you remember some of the menu items or prices that were on the Dog and Sets items in the 50s?
Oh yeah, would they get a great big mug of root beer for a nickel? And I think hot dogs were, what was it, 20 cents, wasn't it? And then coney dogs went
I
25,
think that's right.
and which were two popular items.
We had free root beer for the kiddies
Yeah, a little mug.
called Baby Mug.
Did you ever think you would see the day that the Dog and Suds popularity would return?
No. Pleasant surprise.
Is there anything in particular that stands out in your mind that has happened in Marshall, good or bad?
I don't think I could be specific. We always felt that this is a wonderful community to live and raise your family and educate your family, and we've liked it all the years we've lived here, and that's been many.
Well, I think one of the things that impressed me the most was after having Harlow Market all that time, when this new IGA came to town, that was really a big jump, and we got to go into it, which was one of the best things that have happened in our lives.
What were the most memorable events of your life?
Well, are you talking to me? I think right after we got married, Daddy getting his notice to go into the Navy, that was kind of a shock. He volunteered because he was going to be called, and he shipped out pretty quick that first year, and I went to Chicago to work at Douglas Aircraft, which I really liked.
What exactly was it like to be Rosie the Riveter?
Just shot rivets in airplane fuselage. Worked on big cargo, C-54 cargo planes. And it was real fun. I met a lot of different people. First time I'd ever met people that couldn't speak good English, and people that were all different nationalities.
What were some other memorable events?
Getting to see the big town of Chicago. I remember being fascinated with State Street, going to the auditoriums and the museums and all the things there is to do in the town of Chicago. Loved it too.
How about you, Darrell? What were some of the most memorable events of your life?
Happy memories?
Yeah, well, either way.
Well, I suppose in the category of memories and happy times, I would say probably the year we got married would be one of the most memorable. That was in 1942. And then I think probably, I did mention before, when we bought the IGA, and now I made an error on that. It was not 1973, it was 1963, the day that President John Kennedy was assassinated. It was the day we signed the contract for that. And that was a very happy time for us. I guess that's it.
Who are your children, and where do they live?
We have 3 daughters. Our oldest daughter is Cheryl Crocker. She lives in Robinson, Illinois. Our middle daughter is Darrell E. Smith. She lives in Marshall. She married George Smith. And our youngest daughter is Jeannie Strome, married to Larry Strome. She also lives in Marshall.
And who was Cheryl married to?
Bob Crocker.
After you left 1004 South 6th Street, where did you move?
We built a new home in what was the Writers' Colony, Andy's Writers' Colony in Marshall. And that was in 1969. We moved into our new home out there, which we resided in most of the rest of our life until a couple of years ago. We moved into a smaller home.
It was a Jimmy Jones estate. Jimmy Jones.
Tell us what the property looked like when you first purchased it. Could you tell there had been a writers' colony
Oh,
there?
yes, there was still buildings there. And there's still one building, two buildings out there that was part of the writers' colony. And there was a barracks out there, and then the what they call it, the Ramada, which is where they had their dining room and their meeting room, party room, or whatever you want to call it. It was a nice building left there. And when we went out there, Mrs. Handy's cottage was there, and that was another one of my many mistakes. We tore it down. It was a pretty nice little cottage. And part of the swimming pool was still there. Spillway.
In the Army barracks.
The barracks, now was that where the writers stayed that came to live in the colony?
Yes, it was divided into 6 different rooms. And, yeah, Jimmy Jones was one of the ones that stayed in those barracks when he was here to eternity.
And then Loney Handy had a cottage there, and you said there was a Ramada that now the Hollenbecks own?
Yes, they own that building.
And the pool,
But we filled it all in, and nothing left but the spillway down where the dam was.
but it is still there.
A lot of concrete, that spillway.
And the home where Jimmy Jones actually lived.
It's adjacent, just first lot east of the house that we had built. He built his home. It's a nice Bedford stone home. It's gone through, I think, 3 ownerships now since Jimmy Jones sold it.
The barracks that the writers used to live in. Tell us about that.
Well, we've converted it into, we added on to square footage on either side of it, and it's now our residence.
Cottage.
And it's 34 by 40, which is about 1,360 square feet, which is very adequate for us.
And the building next to it? Did you stop it?
I don't know.
Yes, there is a small, I'd forgotten about that. There's another building, I forgot all about that, and that's where the showers were and restrooms. And it's still there, and I just use it kind of a storage building now. Keep garden tools in, my tractors, and so forth.
So you stay in it in the summer,
Yes,
and then where do you go in the winter?
Naples, Florida. We have a place in Naples, Florida. We spend about 4 months in the winter.
Well, we're certainly happy that you've been a part of Marshall and that you've shared your life, memories of your life with us. Thanks for being a part of this.
Well, we're happy. It brings back a lot of fond memories for us to discuss it. Thank you for asking.